All right, welcome to today's edition of the Carl Jackson podcast. Biden's gas hike proves, or his gas hikes prove, that the Democrat Party hates the middle class. We're talking about that next.
Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson podcast.
All right, welcome to today's edition of the Carl Jackson podcast on this Monday. I hope you had an amazing weekend. Man, we celebrated D-Day. That is so, just to think about the heroes of yesteryear compared to the lack of heroes that we see today. And I know there's still plenty that are in our, military branches and armed forces, but we don't make heroes like we used to, in my opinion. Listen, a lot that I want to get to today. One of the things that I want to say, and I know you guys are experiencing in this, is that Biden hates you. If you're part of the middle class, I want you to understand that the Biden administration hates you, that the Democrat Party hates you. And I want to talk about that, everything that is happening, these high gas prices. If you haven't figured out by now that this is intentional, I don't know what to tell you, because it is intentional. But before I get to all of that, there's a few pieces of news that I want to give you, a few things that were on the tip sheet that I'd like to share with you for today, some headlines. Oh, by the way, this is another thing. Sorry, brain scatter here. Did you guys hear about the Carolina Panthers? The Carolina Panthers, the football team, is allowing the first transgender cheerleader on their squad. So I was planning to, and looking forward to, frankly, to watching the NFL season this year. I've tried to let the woke stuff go after not watching the NFL ever since Colin Kaepernick kneeled, however long ago that was, 3-4 years ago, whenever it was. I stopped watching the NFL. I tuned in again last year. I was craving it. I'm not going to lie to you. So I tuned in last year and I was like, I don't see a lot of woke stuff. Now this comes out and they're trying to make everything, this is Pride Month in the in the LG barbecue community. So everyone is trying to exploit the month in order to make money. The NFL is no different, but I'm tired of this stuff. I'm tired of this stuff being shoved down our throats. So I will not be tuning in to NFL football this year. And I'm telling you, that's a sacrifice, because I really do, like many of you men out there, look forward to this. And I'm sure a lot of you ladies as well. But it stinks. Wokeness is coming everywhere. I cannot wait until November of this year. And then when Republicans take the House in January of next year, when they actually gain power and start implementing or forcing Biden's hands to implement some of our policies, I hope some of this stuff will come to a screeching halt. In the meanwhile, be aware of some of that. Another thing in the news, far left DAs face reckoning for their decarceration approach to crime. This is the first thing that appeared on the tip sheet. You guys may not know this, or perhaps you do, but I'm telling you regardless. San Francisco DA, his name is Chesa Boudin. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He may receive his final reckoning tomorrow in California's primary vote that are occurring. George Soros helped get him into office in 2019. So he ran on a platform of what was it? Decarceration, I believe it was, and ending cash bail. So ending cash bail and decarceration. In other words, being soft on crime. Well, the Asian community, for whatever a reason, were big supporters in that area, in the Bay Area of California and San Francisco, but they're not anymore. Why? Because these policies have impacted them significantly. Crime has gone up as far as violent assaults against Asians, robbery, theft, you name it. All of these crimes have gone up. They are starting to see that this soft on crime nonsense does not work. So there may be a reckoning, but then again, it is California. Nonetheless, people can look at California and say, I don't want to be like that place. And these woke justice warriors are beginning to have a reckoning. From San Francisco Gate, they report even leading Democrats are pushing to remove Boudin. Again, he is the DA in San Francisco. Boudin prides himself for using the lesser charge of accessory after the fact when charging fentanyl dealers for selling the highly lethal drug. what the tip sheet says. He says it says this charge, which is a lower charge than quote possession with intent to sell, close quote, helps these criminals basically get out much sooner and oftentimes walk away from some of these crimes that get released right back into the community. And this simply isn't going well for the Democratic left. There's another story from Fox News where there was a juvenile that apparently there's surveillance. A California teen convicted of plowing a car into a mother and her 8-month-old son will spend just 5 months in a diversionary program, thanks to a Los Angeles district attorney, George Gascon. He's another one that has to go bye-bye. This, according to the woman who survived the crash, despite shocking surveillance video of the August 6, 2021 incident, numerous eyewitnesses, and initial felony charges. The teen will serve his sentence at a, quote, juvenile probation camp, close quote, an alternative sentence less severe than juvenile detention. So this guy almost kills a mother and her baby, and he'll get time in camp. All right? That's what's happening in these woke communities, these woke counties where these these soft on crime DAs are working. Oftentimes implemented by George Soros himself. We have one right here in Orlando, Florida, as a matter of fact. Fortunately, there's enough conservatives around where she hasn't been able to do as much damage as she would like, but nonetheless, they have been soft on crime. Even places like Orlando, crime is getting increasingly, slowly but surely, worse. All right, now here's another piece that I think is very important before we get to the fact that there's a war on the middle class. There's a war to make you poor. And for those of you that are poor, Biden is waging a war in the Democrat Party. When I say Biden, I say Biden-Harris. But when Biden-Harris are waging this war, I want you to understand their war is to keep you poor. If you are poor, if you're in the middle class, it's to make you poor. Why? Because it's about control. If you're in the poor community, if you're in the poor class, the Biden administration, the Democrat Party can control you. It has always been my contention, my argument that the left is the left is successful. The Democrat Party is successful when you're unsuccessful. Therefore, in every single election, the Democrat Party, and particularly the leftists and the freaking Marxists that exist within the Democrat Party, will never do anything to help you succeed. They won't do that. That's not their goal. They will lose their base if they do that. I understand some people can go to college and get woke, but that's a small percentage in comparison to the poor populations that exist in blue cities across the country. Now, having said that, so let me read you this. This also was in the tip sheet. I think it's very important news for the day. A headline: more than 8 in 10 Americans are against Biden's economy. That's right. This is Biden's economy. He is badly underwater, according to the headline. This from ABC. Now, you guys know ABC. ABC is no conservative rag by any stretch of the imagination. And here's what they have to say. With inflation on the rise since last fall, Americans have been significantly affected by the rising cost of goods and services. You don't say, ABC. And more than 8 in 10 Americans, 83%, now say that the economy is either an extremely or very important issue in determining how they will vote in the latest ABC News Ipsos poll. Now, let me remind you that this poll is silent when it comes to the Uvalde shooting. Why? Because that is listen, I don't ever want to minimize murder. I don't want to minimize mass shootings. That isn't my goal. But you're talking about a mass shooting that killed several students. This is sad. The conversation should be about hardening schools. Any other conversation about gun control isn't serious. The continued conversation that I hear some conservatives getting caught up into about what the cops did good, what the cops did bad. I think it is important for us to look at this stuff initially, no doubt, and it is obviously newsworthy, but there is an investigation going on. More news continues to emerge each day. But what isn't being done, like I talked about with John Lott, make sure you guys check out that podcast, anywhere podcasts are found. And thank you guys. We've had a lot of listeners, downloads in the last 30 days. God bless you. We appreciate you. Anywhere podcasts are found, Apple, Google, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, rate, review, like them, share them. It's helping us out greatly. And I hope my goal is to help you out too, because I believe we're in the fight. I believe we're in the fight for freedom. Also, follow me on social media. Anywhere on social media that I can be found, you can typically find me at The Carl Jackson Show. The Carl Jackson Show on Twitter, on Instagram, you name it. All right. Now, getting back to this. So again, more than 8 in 10 Americans are against Biden's economy. People are feeling the pain. So stories like Uvalde, they end up being big stories. But you know what happens? You know what gets lost in the Uvalde story? And let's be honest, this is a story. If another shooting happens, and another shooting is going to happen before Election Day, there's no doubt about it. The left is going to capitalize on that. They're sick little punks, they are. So they're going to use whatever story emerges or whatever racial story they can exploit closer to the election in order to try to gain votes. It's what they do. They have no policies that work. Their policies suck. Everything that you're living under today, the high gas prices, the high food prices, the shipping supplies, the racial divisiveness, this is all a result of the Democrat Party and their policies. Their policies don't work except to destroy our lives and except to destroy this country. Going back to this headline in the poll, again, this is an ABC poll. And again, people are concerned about survival. That's why stories like the Uvalde shooting will slip away. In the poll, 80% of Americans say that inflation is also an extremely or very important factor in how they will vote for the gas prices. That's 74% of the people. Joe Biden's approval ratings for his handling of these key issues are well underwater, according to ABC, suggesting trouble for Biden and Democratic candidates ahead of the midterm. Only 37% approve of Biden's handling of the economic recovery, and even fewer approve of his handling of inflation and gas prices. Now, again, guys, this stuff is being done intentionally. The reason they can't explain it is because they are incompetent. I don't think anyone in Biden's administration understands the economy, including Janet Yellen. I don't think these people get it, but I know they know what they want to do. I know they know that they want to fundamentally transform America, that they want to destroy America. So let's get past the incompetence. They are incompetent, right? And that's why they're doing stuff so quickly and they're so bad at it. It's forcing all of us to wake up. It's just complete overkill. They've overreached and their behinds are going to pay the price in November. This, according to an Ipsos poll, among Americans who report they are very enthusiastic to vote in November, the economy and the inflation, no Uvalde, are the most important issues. Why? Because Americans and people in general are concerned about survival. People are concerned about self-preservation. So when times are good, right? It's crazy. It's almost, I'm a Christian, right? So when times are good, it's easy to ignore God. It's easy to stop praying. It's easy to just, oh, life is good. Life is good. You know, you just stop thinking about stuff. And then when something bad happens, you hyper focus on that situation. I think that's what we're having here. That's what we saw with the Trump administration. People got extremely annoyed at Trump and the bad things they thought he was doing because everything was really so good around us. But now with Biden in, you're seeing the contrast quickly occur and you're like, oh snap, at breakneck speed, we've watched our economy go from numero uno to God knows what. It's crazy. So also according to Ipsos, currently Republicans outnumber Democrats in their stated enthusiasm to vote in the midterms. Also, there's some RNC research, ABC poll quote, Biden is a serious drag on Democratic candidates nationwide. He is badly underwater on all of the top issues. And where's Kamala Harris? Nowhere to be seen because she's even worse than Biden. If you can imagine, she's even worse than a senile old man. I want to talk about this enthusiasm gap really briefly here. This is really important. This concept of the enthusiasm gap is a big deal. And for those of you that may be a Republican conservative somewhere in the middle, but you're like, oh my God, the Democrat Party is completely screwing us and destroying the economy. And so perhaps like Elon Musk, you'll be voting Republican for the first time. I want you guys to understand. Listen, don't get discouraged. I had someone message me this week, or at least put on one of the social media sites. Carl, you know there's going to be so much cheating come November. Listen, there may be some cheating. That is an excuse for you not to show up at the poll. For God's sakes, there are a lot of election integrity measures under place. We have some weak-kneed Republicans, but some in some states are working at election integrity issues. We saw it happen in Georgia. If you guys were listening to this podcast, you heard me quote from a black woman in Georgia who was told she was listening to all the Democrat hype, how things with election integrity measures in place, how things were going to get harder for black people like her to vote. And she was shocked at how much better the system worked and how much more quickly the lines moved in order to vote. And she thought it was a better process, to her shock, because the Democrat Party was brainwashing her in Georgia to believe that life was going to get much harder for blacks to vote in Georgia. And it just did not. It just didn't happen that way. So she was shocked. This is bad news for the Democrat Party. There's a lot of enthusiasm, just like we saw in Georgia, where Republicans showed up in numbers that were unbelievable. Last thing that I want to mention that's on the tip sheet, headline news for you today, before I go in deep into this issue on why the Democrat Party hates the middle class. And it's just a fact. They hate you. The Democrat Party hates you. They want to destroy the middle class. That's the reason for the intentional gas hike. So just a few headlines. I want to talk to you about what's going on in Ukraine. I know people are moving past this story. I get it, but it is still an important story. I did not want to be in Ukraine. I didn't want to be a part of Ukraine. I wanted to be able to help Ukraine out, which we missed the opportunity to do so, and then back out of it and let them fight their own war. Unfortunately, we have an administration that's committed to it. So I think we're in it. I know we were fighting a proxy war with Russia using Ukraine. Guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're in this thing. We didn't want to be in this thing. I don't think it was the right thing to be in this thing. I don't think we need to be going around and starting wars, but we're in this thing, and it needs to finish properly. We shouldn't be just spending money willy-nilly. We should give the Ukrainian people what they need to wage war and to fight and to defend themselves as far as military equipment is concerned, and we should shut our pie holes and not talk about it. But the Biden administration did a whammy on all of us. When everyone witnessed the debacle in Afghanistan, they put the United States, the Biden-Harris administration did, in a precarious position where we knew dictators around the world were going to try us. And indeed they did. And instead of the moron, and God forgive me, but it's true, he's a moron in the White House, instead of working ahead of schedule, if you will, thinking long term, he should have sent weaponry on the DL to Ukraine in order so that they could defend themselves and deter Russia. Instead, he has gotten us into a proxy war with Russia. So I do want to give you these headlines because it is impacting us, and it is going to continue to impact us. And we have to be concerned about our national security threat and the level of the national security threat as long as Biden is in the White House. I'm sorry, that's just reality. That's just where we are. So the Ukrainians are on the offensive again. This goes back and forth. They retake parts of the city Severodonetsk while awaiting weaponry aid from U.S. The Wall Street Journal reports that Ukrainian forces managed to retake parts of the city of Severodonetsk. I'm sure I'm butchering that, but forgive me. I'll read on. As part of a counterattack, boosting hopes that they could hold off the Russian offensive in the eastern Donbas region, as Kiev waited for new long-range rocket systems to arrive from the U.S. The close quarters combat in Severodonetsk the capital of the Luhansk region, makes it harder for Russian troops to unleash their artillery against Ukrainian forces. That has been Russia's main advantage in the east, enabling them to crush Ukrainian defenses and make slow but steady gains. So we're seeing Ukrainians once again go on the offense. Praise God. Listen, I know that I know that Ukraine is a corrupt place. I get it. I get their politicians are corrupt. I don't think their people are. Everything that I've read, their people are good people. They have a corrupt government. Nonetheless, I'd rather see Ukraine win over Russia any day of the week with a dictator like Vladimir Putin. All right. Again, here's another headline. Russia sends missiles into Kiev, issues warning to the West. So, guys, we're in this. Obviously, you're going to see aggression continue and perhaps even increase from Russia, which is all the more reason why we should have had the weapons in there early. We should have shut our pie holes, and this would have deterred Russia because they would have known that Ukraine already has the weapon to defend parts of their country. That's no longer the case. So Russia took aim Sunday at Hat Tip ABC at Western military supplies for Ukraine, launching airstrikes on Kiev that it claimed destroyed tanks donated from abroad, as Vladimir Putin warned that any Western deliveries of longer-range rocket systems would prompt Moscow to, quote, to hit, and I quote, objects that we haven't yet struck, close quote. The Russians' lead a cryptic threat of military escalation did not specify what the new targets might be. It came days after the U.S. announced plans to deliver $700 million of security assistance for Ukraine. That includes 4 precision-guided medium-range rocket systems, as well as helicopters, Javelin anti-tank systems, radars, tactical vehicles, and more. So this isn't going to end anytime soon, guys. Pray for wisdom. I know I'm so tired of the woke military, but you still have to pray for wisdom for these people. We didn't want to get into this war. Biden has put us into this war. It's important that Ukraine wins. All right, it's important. North Korea tests multiple ballistic missiles. This stopped under Trump. It's weird that this stuff has resumed, isn't it? Wink, wink. North Korea fired 8 short-range ballistic missiles towards the sea off its east coast on Sunday, a day after South Korea and the U.S. wrapped up their first combined military exercises involving an American aircraft carrier in more than 4 years. This, according to Fox News. The missiles were fired from the Sunan area of the North Korean capital, Pyongyang. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff told Fox News the United States has vowed to push for additional international sanctions if North Korea conducts a new nuclear test, but the prospects for further UN Security Council measures appear dim. Russia and China vetoed a U.S.-sponsored resolution that would have imposed additional sanctions on North Korea. Russia and China just straight punking Biden-Harris administration, therefore punking us because they know they can with a feckless person like Biden in the White House. Who takes this guy seriously? No one takes this guy seriously. I don't even think his staff members take him seriously anymore, to be honest with you. But we're in a world of hurt with this guy in office now. I want to get to the story at hand. But before I do, I'm going to play a couple video clips for you because, again, my argument for today, and I contend that Biden's gas hikes prove that the Democrats want to destroy the middle class. They want to completely destroy the middle class. They hate the middle class, as a matter of fact. So here's some audio for you. First, I want to play. This is from Biden's. Oh my God, what is this guy's name? This is from John Sullivan. John Sullivan talking about the transition away from fossil fuels. I want you guys to listen to this piece of audio very closely to see what he has to say. Understand all the pain that you're feeling at the pump, all the pain that you're feeling at the grocery stores. This is intentional. This is not an accident. Let's play the clip, Gabe.
We are working with our European allies and partners, as well as others, to transition away from Russian sources of energy and ultimately to transition away from fossil fuels entirely and to continue this transition to renewable, to sources of energy that will see to it that neither the United States nor any country around the world is held hostage to a country like Russia, who can close the spigot whenever they so choose.
Okay. So there you go. Now, I know what you're saying, Carl. We've all seen it, right? So you're saying, Carl, this is just one of Biden's little homies inside of his administration that's probably saying, miscommunicating, or saying something entirely different than what the president has to say. Really? What? Okay. All right. So now you guys are going to make me prove it to you. All right, let's prove it to you. He isn't saying anything that the Biden administration doesn't want to say. As a matter of fact, Joe Biden said the same thing. Here's audio clip from Joe Biden, or if you're tuning in on YouTube or Rumble at the Carl Jackson Podcast, watch the video.
We're going through an incredible transition that is taking place that, God willing, when it's over, we'll be stronger and the world will be stronger and less reliant on fossil fuels when this is over. This is going to be a haul. This is going to take some time.
All right, so I want you guys to understand what's happening. This fool has literally gone from pretending as if he was going to bring prices down to now telling you guys to brace yourselves. Guys, it's going to get worse. I'm going to explain to you why, and I hope that you're braced. Man, we need a sponsor right here, Gabe. I hope that you're braced for what's coming. If you're in debt, get out of debt, save what you can, stock up what you can. You even have to think old school. You have to start thinking of what can I purchase that I can barter perhaps with neighbors if it comes a point in time where we're in serious need and desperation. And I do not doubt that under the leadership of the Biden-Harris administration, things are bad and they're going to get worse, because not only is this intentional, but they suck at policy. They suck at governing. There's no doubt about it. Hat tip, this from the Washington Post, Mark Thiessen. Gas prices are through the roof. That's just how Biden wants it. And again, my contention, my argument is that Biden wants the gas hikes because the Democrat Party, not just Biden. I don't want you to just think of Biden. Whenever you think of Biden and Harris together, all they do is they represent what the Democrat Party wants. This isn't the party of, I don't know, Joe Lieberman or Zell Miller going back in the day. This isn't even Bill Clinton's party anymore. This may be Hillary Clinton's party. This isn't even Bill Clinton's party anymore. This is Barack Obama's. This is where, in my opinion, Barack Obama wanted to go. But at the time, maybe the social media companies, they weren't as prevalent then, but it is full-blown left-wing radicalism in our institutions. And so Biden can go for the gusto, and he'll get cover from big tech. He'll get cover from the mainstream media. Hat tip again, Washington Post, Mark Thiessen, fabulous column. Biden is the least popular U.S. president in modern polling history. This is the latest, right? He is the least popular. I've already given you some of the numbers. More than 8 in 10 Americans are against Biden's economy. More than 8 in 10 Americans. This is unbelievable. His approval rating has dropped even further now that Americans have come back from their Memorial Day weekend travels. According to AAA, this was one of the most expensive Memorial Day travel periods on record, with gas prices at the time hitting $4.62. Some places are as high as $4.80 or averaging $4.80 now. We continue to see increases on the daily. Places in California have reached $7 or approximately $7 a gallon. Some places even as high as $8 a gallon in parts of California. So things are high. Things are going to continue to get worse. So while you suffer at the pump, remember, Biden is praising his high gas prices as an opportunity to shift away from fossil fuels. And when we talk about fossil fuels, I really want you to start thinking about natural fuels that God has given us in order to use and to sustain life here on earth. But somehow this is bad for the environment because people like Biden knows better. What a joke. And again, just to reiterate what he said, here's the situation, folks. However he talks, the guy can barely read. So here's the situation. He said that was in Tokyo back on May 23rd. When it comes to the gas prices, he says we're going through an incredible transition that is taking place that, God willing, when it's over, we'll be stronger and the world will be stronger and less reliant on fossil fuels, close quote. As if that's a good thing. That isn't a good thing. What the hell I want you guys to go search for video and images of what happens to the areas where they mine for some of the materials that are found in electrical vehicles. And tell me if that's not doing more damage to the environment. And then you have to think about, okay, well, where will we dispose of these batteries? It's a total joke. It's a total joke to believe that we're going to transition to electrical vehicles for one period with this mass population, total changeover, but also that they're better for the environment. It is a complete and utter lie. And anyone who tells you anything different, I don't care if it's a quote unquote expert, it's because they have an agenda. It's because they have an agenda, or they're just not well read. And I would say that's the layman. They're not well read. They believe the quote unquote experts in front of them because the left don't want to believe that their political leaders, that their academic leaders will straight up lie to their faces in order to brainwash them. No one wants to believe that people are evil. That is the benefit that being a Christian, I think, has, or being a person of faith has over the left. We understand that we're living in a fallen world, that people are going to do some cray things, and the left is doing that. So the only thing that's incredible about the about the high gas prices for Americans is struggling to make ends meet. That's what's incredible. These high gas prices are going to make life harder and harder and harder for you. And the reason is simple. The Democrat Party hates the middle class. Here's the deal. You guys know this. You know this to be true. The Democrat Party can control the poor class. They can control the poor population. It's what they've done overwhelmingly and sadly, but true, within my own community, within the Black community. They've managed to convince Blacks that Democrats are for them, despite the fact that our numbers have gotten worse as far as our family relationships are concerned, as far as people being in poverty. Now, there's no doubt there's been also a lot of Blacks that have been educated and gone through academia, but they've been brainwashed to buy into Karl Marxism, which is European, all the while bashing white Americans. Makes no sense to me, but it's proof positive that lefties don't think through their policies. That's just the way that it is. But they've decimated the Black community. They've decimated the Democrat Party has the Black family, and they want us to believe that they're for us, that they're helping us out. It's crazy. It's insane. It's insane. The transition statement by Biden isn't a gaffe. All right. So we heard from, was it John Sullivan or Jake Sullivan, whoever the guy is that's helping Biden to destroy America, the spokesman. We heard from him. We know this isn't a gaffe. We know this isn't a gaffe. These people are intentionally destroying the middle class because they hate the middle class. So it's easy to control the poor population, the poor class, as I told you. Why? Because more likely they're going to have to be dependent upon government, just like the Democrat Party wants. More people on welfare. That's why they want open borders. They want to get more people on welfare, more people dependent upon the Democrat Party. And while Republicans are sitting there and saying, listen, this is a great place for you to create opportunity for yourselves, pull yourselves up by the bootstrap, open a business, so on, etc. You got people telling these people that are crossing the border and people telling poor people right off the bat, know what? We're going to give you stuff for free. You don't have to work for it, except you and I have to work for it. Taxpayers, people in the middle class, we have to work for it. So while we struggle, while Biden is fighting to make us poor, as we struggle to pay taxes for people that want freebies. And that's what it ultimately comes down to, a bunch of crumb snatchers that want freebies, that are willing to vote for people like Biden. They know that they can control the poor. How do they control us? By making us poor, by getting rid of those that have this entrepreneurial spirit that exists within the middle class, or people that are, if you're in the middle class, you could go one of either two ways, right? Your life, maybe you're living just above paycheck to paycheck. But if something bad, a major financial hit comes, you might be struggling. You might go back to, or you might become a poor American again, per se, right? But you've been in the middle class. You've learned how to save. You learn how to invest. Perhaps you have some assets. Perhaps you have a home. You know that if you continue at least paying your mortgage, you know, you can go look for other work. You can increase your income. You know, perhaps you can become financially independent through investments, 401k, or whatever investment account you might have, and you can rebuild. And then you could even become wealthy. If you follow Dave Ramsey's plan, you could be poor, for God's sakes. And if you stay out of debt and invest and save to the best of your ability, pay cash along the way, you can become wealthy. I don't care what you make. You can make minimum wage in America and become wealthy if you stay out of debt. It's only a matter of time. It's obviously going to take longer for some than others, but you can still become wealthy. But that's what they want to get rid of in the United States because they hate the middle class. The Democrat Party does. They don't want people to have an option of freedom. They don't want people to be lone rangers. That's the reason why they wanted to crush using COVID. They wanted to crush the small business entrepreneur because these major corporations, look at them. The NFL is woke. You got T-Mobile completely woke. You got these major corporations that are completely woke. But then you have the mom and pop shops that Job Creators Network fights for that are just standing up, trying to make their businesses survive so they can continue to feed themselves and to employ their employees. And those are the people that are struggling. Those are the people that are hurting. Those are the people, you and I, that the left wants to crush because they want to destroy us. And if we're poor, they can control us. This is about control. It has always been about control. The left, which is the Democrat Party, it's synonymous today. They have no desire to make your lives better. None whatsoever. That's not in their agenda. It never has been. It's always been about control. From Woodrow Wilson to FDR to LBJ to Obama to the senile bastard in the White House, it has always been about control. Forgive my language. But it's fascinating. Actually, it's just frustrating to see what they're doing. So testifying before a Congress on May 19th, here's what Interior Secretary Deb Haaland repeatedly refused to say that gas prices are too high. And then Senator John Barrasso, Republican from Wyoming, asked her point blank, do you believe that gas prices are too high? Now, of course, you and I would say, of course, the answer is yes. Of course, Senator, gas prices are too high. Haaland didn't say that. Haaland hemmed and hawed, hesitated, did all that. And then Senator Barrasso had to ask her again. And then he said, and I quote, it sounds like you're unwilling to say that gas prices are still too high, close quote. So she still refused to say that they were. The message is obvious. They want these prices higher. Why? Because they hate the middle class. They need the middle class to conform to their agenda. They need us out of these gas vehicles. They need us into electrical vehicles. But wait a minute, we'll talk about the environment for EVs in just a second because our grids can't support a bunch of us transitioning over to EVs. And the left knows this. Make no mistake about it. So what's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to get us into mass transportation. If they can get us into mass transportation, then what? They can move us into urban centers, and then what? They can control us. The only thing is they screwed up a lot because the crime in urban centers are so freaking high because of Democrat policies. People are like, oh my God, I don't want to move back to the city. Adios. Adios, amigos. So the Democrat Party wants to make all of America a city, even if you're in rural America. That's what they want to do. So if Biden cared about lowering high gas prices, if he cared about a clean environment, you know what he would do? He would increase domestic drilling. That's just a fact. That is a fact. After a federal judge invalidated an offshore oil and gas lease sale in January, the administration chose not to appeal and has since counseled 3 transactions in the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of Alaska, taking millions of acres off the auction blocks. The Post called the move, and that's the Washington Post, by the way, quote, a victory for climate activists intent on curbing U.S. fossil fuel leaning, close quote, which, and I quote again, effectively ends the possibility of the federal government holding a lease sale in coastal waters this year, close quote. These fools are idiots. These fools are idiots. So we stop the drilling here. Where does it go? Where does it go? Who gets to drill? So we're no longer energy independent. We're now dependent, and we still need fossil fuels. So where do we go? Oh, we go to dictators. And we assume those on the left do. We still need the same amount of fuel, even though they're trying to raise these gas prices to crush the middle class and wean you off of fossil fuels. But we still need them. We can't afford EVs, especially under the Biden-Harris economy. We can't afford EVs. Some people can. People that have higher incomes can. But we're in a very precarious situation. And these climate activists are complete, utter morons. As if, all right, so we stopped drilling here, but India, Russia, China, all of them are firing up coal plants, and we think we're making the environment better. We're so damn dumb. The left is so damn dumb. It's frustrating. It is frustrating. All right. Worse, the administration is about to let the nationwide offshore drilling program expire next month without a new plan in place. So if you think gas prices are high now, you ain't seen anything yet. It's going to get worse, and intentionally so. Why? Because they hate the middle class. This is exactly what they wanted to do. Biden is doing exactly what he promised. This is what he promised on the campaign trail. For those of you guys that may have heard it and may have voted for him, it may have been wishful thinking. You were thinking, okay, this will come slowly. Yes, you know, we're environmentalists. We want the air to be clean, assuming that he wouldn't go buy oil and gas from dictators like Russia. And now we're helping to fund the war against Russia, while at the same time, we're helping to fund the war for Russia. So we're just in a dangerous place. And you can thank the Democrat Party for that. The Democrat Party, they always talk about these animals that are going extinct. You know what's going extinct? The middle class. Under the Biden administration, the middle class is going extinct. Man, that's actually a pretty good title, Gabe. You should have mentioned that beforehand. Anyway, so this is what's happening. So they think this is a victory. More pain is coming for you and I at the pump. More pain is coming for us at the grocery stores. Fuel drives everything. I challenge you. For those of you that are in the listening audience, I challenge you to Google it. I want you to Google, or whatever you use, DuckDuckGo it, whatever. I want you to look at everything that is made of fossil fuels, that is made out of fossil fuels. You will be walking around butt naked with no products virtually if we get rid of fossil fuel production. All of these climate activists that get their message out on laptops and their phones are using products that are made by petroleum, fossil fuels. These little hypocrites have no idea. If they're brushing their teeth, if they're combing their hair, if they're using shampoo, if they're walking around with clothing on, if they're walking around with shoes on, nothing they use is not made from some element of fossil fuel production. It's amazing. I challenge you, go look it up for yourself. So Biden is doing exactly what he wanted to do. Under Trump opened up 100 million acres of public land and water to exploration. I wish he would have sold it to some private landowners. Biden promised in 2020 to ban all, and I quote, new oil and gas permitting on public lands and waters. So new stuff is what he planned to, what he said he would get rid of during the campaign trail. But he's even making it difficult for existing oil and gas leases. One of his first acts in his first week as president was to halt all new federal leasing. It was only after a Louisiana judge struck down his moratorium last summer that his administration involuntarily resumed leasing. Releasing gas from the strategic oil preserve, which, guys, that's just virtue signaling. That doesn't do jack squat. And now we don't have as much oil in our strategic oil reserve. That was just virtue signaling. Even Biden admitted at the time that the impact would be unknown. Well, now we know the impact. It didn't do jack squat for us. The gas prices continue to increase because of Biden, the Biden-Harris administration, and the Democrat policies. Vote every single one of these fools out of office in November, and don't put another Democrat in office until this party repents. This party hates success. They hate the middle class. They hate that you have an opportunity for freedom in America. They hate that you have an opportunity to advance without them. They want to be needed. They want grown behind adults to need the Democrat Party. That's why we have 26-year-olds on their mommy and daddy's health insurance because of Obamacare. They want you to be dependent. They don't want you to grow up. And as a matter of fact, the left doesn't grow up themselves. This is what you have to understand. So Biden is doing exactly what he wanted. Democrats welcome high gas prices because if they can force Americans away from fossil fuels, not only will they control this narrative of climate change, right? If they can force us into submission, they want to beat us down. They want to use psychological warfare. And again, what is the goal? Force us into EVs, force us into mass transportation, force us into urban communities, which they control. But crime is so bad, the plan isn't working out quite as well. And there's no infrastructure to support EVs over all of the highways. Mark Thiessen points out at the Washington Post, Biden has set a goal of making half of all new car sales electric in less than 10 years. Poor people. I hope you can afford that. You can't even afford a Toyota Corolla today. And now Biden wants you to be able to afford a Tesla, even though they don't really like Elon Musk right now. But he makes the best electric car out there, no doubt. So they want you to be able to afford this. Or do they really? But he set a goal. Half of all new car sales in electric in less than 10 years. And these woke corporations that are just money hungry are going right along with it. But there are fewer than, listen to this. Here's some stats. There are fewer than 46,000 EV public charging sites in the U.S. Shouldn't be that many, frankly, but there's 46,000 in the U.S. and 5,627 of them are fast charging sites. You're talking about a population of 330 plus million people. I don't know how many cars on the road. I suspect billions of cars on the road in the United States, or hundreds of millions or whatever. A lot. All right. So we need 1 million fast charging stations. 1 million. We have 5,627 to be exact. We need 1 million of them in order to support Biden's goal of have all new electric car sales electric in less than 10 years. And then the question you have to ask is, can the grid support it? The answer is no. The answer is no. Exactly what the left wants. They can control us in electric cars. The grid can't support it. Oh, whoops. What a big mistake. You're going to have to move to mass transportation. Man, these fools have got us, or at least they're trying to get us right where they want us. So we have to make sure that we remove these guys in 2022. And then in 2024, we have to take back the White House. We have to take back the White House. And Republicans, understand that for 2 years, even when you win the House and perhaps even the Senate, the left and the mainstream media is going to beat you up for 2 years. So be ready for it with your own rhetoric, because the left and the mainstream media, mark my words, you heard it on the Carl Jackson podcast first, for the next 2 years after Republicans retake the House and hopefully the Senate as well, the media is going to say all of the pain that you're still feeling because we don't control the White House is a result of Republicans. And some of you have short-term memory loss, so you'll believe it. You'll believe it. God forbid. God forbid. It's unbelievable where we're at. Guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in today to the Carl Jackson podcast. Again, please follow me on all social media platforms, The Carl Jackson Show. You can find me on Instagram. I really love to build up my following there. You can follow me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. The Carl Jackson Show is where you find me. True Social, Getter, all of those places, The Carl Jackson Show. And again, please subscribe, like, share my podcast everywhere podcasts are found: Apple, Google, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube. We really want to grow this thing, not because it's about me. It really isn't. Guys, I'm an everyday American, just like many of you in the listening audience. And I want to still have a voice in the United States of America. And I want you to have a voice too. I think the left is trying to crush the middle class. I think they're trying to crush we the people. And for as long as I'm alive, it's an honor to be a voice for you. So until next time, guys, don't grow weary doing good. Remember, follow me on social media. Also subscribe, like, review, rate the podcast. That'll help the numbers grow. That'll help all of us in the fight for freedom. God bless you.